After getting lost during their walk, two dogs have to cross New York and face the terrible animals of the sewer to get back home. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, The Secret Life of Pets, from 2016. In the center of New York, a Jack Russell Terrier called Max lives happily with his guardian Katie. Despite this, whenever she leaves the apartment, the dog stays down and spends the whole day at the door waiting for the woman to return. After her family leaves, neighbor Gidget goes to the window and tries to talk to Max, but he doesn't pay any attention to the Pomeranian who lies there watching him. In the other apartments, the humans also go out to do their activities and the animals stay at home alone, taking advantage of the freedom to do whatever they feel like doing. While Max is waiting for Katie to return, Chloe the cat appears at the window and starts talking to the dog about where humans go. Suddenly, Max's other friends show up with his favorite ball and start playing together. When night falls, Katie returns home and Max is very excited by her presence, but everything changes when she shows him that she has brought a new dog to keep him company, Duke, a bearded collie. When he sees the other animal, Max growls and wants to drive it out of his territory, but Duke is very playful and licks Jack Russell's face, making him very uncomfortable. Feeling right at home, the bearded collie starts walking around the apartment and destroys Max's favorite ball. When it's time to go to sleep, Katie lays a cloth for Duke on the floor and goes to the bathroom, leaving the two dogs alone to talk. While trying to sleep, Max is interrupted by Duke, who talks about how much more comfortable his bed is and asks him to take turns. Max rejects him without a second thought and says he can sleep on the old blanket, but Duke doesn't let it go and lies down on top of Jack Russell. After almost being crushed, Max runs to Katie and tells her everything he feels about Duke, but the woman doesn't understand his barking. On the other hand, the bearded collie understands very well what he is saying and gets angry, backing him into a corner while saying that he will get rid of him. Scared, Duke sleeps in his bed and he stays up all night by the snoring. The next morning, Jack Russell begs his owner not to leave, but Katie only hears barking and goes off to work. As soon as the woman leaves, Duke eats all the food in his bowl and Max's too, leaving the dog hungry. While the smaller dog complains, Norman, the guinea pig, appears through the ventilation duct and Duke runs after him, hitting his head on the wall and knocking over Katie's favorite vase. Seeing the broken object, Max says that his human will be furious and has the idea of using this to his advantage, making a real mess of the house to put the blame on Duke. Knowing that he will be expelled because of the mess, Max begins to blackmail bearded collie into obeying him. Now that Duke is under control, Max goes out with the dog walker who takes everyone to Central Park. There, the man takes the collars off all the dogs, but just as he's about to take Max's off, an old acquaintance appears and the man gets distracted, leaving the Jack Russell with the chain. Even so, the dog continues to pick on Duke and forces him to go after a stick. While looking for one, the furry dog finds a hole in the fence that is under construction and lures Max there, taking advantage of the gap to take Jack Russell away. Pulling him by the collar, Duke goes to an alley and dumps him in a garbage can, but when the overweight poodle turns to leave, two cats come out of the garbage can and throw Max out. Because they are natural enemies, Duke is apprehensive about the kitten sneaking up and stealing his collar. To retrieve the object, Duke calls the cat into a fight and hundreds of other cats show up to help, cornering the dogs. As he is outnumbered, Duke decides to retreat and runs in desperation, leaving Max alone. Frightened, the dog hides inside a garbage can, but is soon picked up by the kittens who throw him high in the air, swing him across the clothesline and leave him trapped inside a dress. Now that Max is immobilized, a kitten appears and rips the collar off his neck, cutting the clothesline and causing the dog to fall to the ground, while Max tries to recover from his fall. Duke reappears being chased by animal control, causing the cats to scatter and leaving the two of them trapped against the humans. With no way of escaping, the dogs are captured and taken to the pound. During the trip, Max begins to complain when he realizes that Duke is standing in the corner of the cage in fear. The bearded collie then says that he spent a lot of time at the pound and that he was happy when he was adopted by Katie, but that he is now going back to animal control and is afraid that he will never be adopted again. In the building, Gidget hears the barking of her colleagues outside and goes to the window to ask for Max, discovering that he has disappeared into the bushes in the square. Even though she's just an apartment dog, Gidget decides that she's going to rescue her beloved and throws herself out of the window, going to the front building to talk to Chloe. At the center, animal control workers are arriving at the pound when they find a rabbit in the middle of the street. Seeing the small animal, one of the humans gets out of the van to rescue it, but is attacked by the rabbit and his cronies who get into the van. While the pig and the lizard attack the driver, the rabbit goes to the cages at the bottom and gnaws on the carrot until it takes the shape of the key. With the object in hand, the bunny unlocks his captured partner and watches as the driver is thrown out. Now that the humans are gone, The pig and the lizard start driving through the city streets, but they're obviously not good drivers and end up crashing into several cars. As if that wasn't bad enough, they ramped over a wall and overturned the vehicle, crashing into a wall. After the impact, the rabbit and his friends start to run away when Duke decides to ask who they are. The animal then returns and introduces himself as Snowball, saying that he is the leader of the Manhole Gang, a club of animals who have been abandoned by their humans and now want revenge. Knowing that they will be alone, Max asks to join them and Snowball says that the two of them smell like domesticated dogs, stating that they will never be accepted in the Manhole Gang. In order to escape, Max lies, saying that they live on the streets and hate humans, but Duke exaggerates and says that they even took the lives of their last owners. Despite this, Snowball likes the story and Max confirms what Duke says, gaining the trust of the rabbit who frees them, taking them both back to their hiding place in the sewer. In the building, Gidget goes to the rooftop to try and spot Max, but even though she's high up, there are much bigger buildings in New York. While she's thinking of a way to locate Max, a hawk called Tiberius offers to help her even though he's in a cage. When Gidget approaches, Tiberius tells her that he has a great vision and that he can find Max if she frees him. Trusting what he says, the dog enters the cage and climbs over a pile of bones to free him, removing the blindfold from the hawk's eyes. Now that he can see, Tiberius spreads his wings and tries to grab Gidget with his beak, but the dog manages to run out of the cage and out of reach of the bird, which is trapped by chains. Furious, Gidget says that Tiberius is a very bad bird and he starts crying, saying that's why he never had a friend. Desperate, the bird asks her to remove the chain and promises that this time it will help her. Even though it's a bad idea, Gidget says they can be best friends and agrees to free him by removing the chain from his feet. Despite feeling the urge to go after her, Tiberius manages to hold back and starts flying around the city in search of Max, who at this point is already arriving at the underworld, the hideout of the Manhole Gang. In this place, several other animals abandoned by humans live together. With everyone gathered, Snowball asks Max and Duke to tell him how they eliminated their former owner and they make up some story. After them, each of the other animals tells them about what they went through at the hands of humans until they got there. After all the stories, Snowball says it's time for the initiation and calls the Viper for the ritual. On the terrace, Tiberius appears with that cat that stole Max's collar and makes him spit it back out, threatening him to tell him where the Jack Russell is. Despite this, the kitten refuses to answer and it is Gidget who forces him to talk, threatening the cat until he gives the location of the dogs. Underground, the crazed rabbit tells them that they must survive a bite from the anti-human viper and says that Max must go first, asking the other animals to take him to the snake. When the dog is about to be bitten by the one-eyed basilisk, the group of cats show up and say that they can't be started, telling them that Max and Duke are domesticated and that they had their collars stolen in the alley. When he learns that he has been tricked, Snowball is furious and orders the other animals to attack them both. To defend himself, Duke grabs the viper by the tail and starts swinging it from side to side, pushing all the animals away and making the snake get stuck in a steel column. Trying to reach Max, the viper ends up knocking over the pillar and is crushed by tons of concrete falling on his head. After the snake's demise, Snowball gets even angrier and sends the whole Manhole Gang after the dogs, forcing them to run through the tunnels while being chased by the abandoned animals. After a few meters, the dogs arrive at a waterfall and Duke throws Max over the edge, jumping in after him. While they are carried away by the current, Snowball and the others just watch their targets go, promising to go after them for revenge. In her apartment, Gidget invites all the animals in the building and tells them what she has found out about Max, asking for their help in rescuing him. In the sewer, the two dogs are dragged along by the current until they are sucked into a whirlpool and end up in a pipe that dumps them in the middle of the Hudson River. Despite not being able to swim properly, the two approach a boat and Duke manages to get on without any problems. In his turn, Max is pushed by the water displaced by the propeller and the bearded collie has to throw the emergency buoy, pulling him to safety. At first they think they're finally going home, but they soon realize that the boat they've boarded is going to Brooklyn, the opposite direction from home. On their way out of the filthy underworld, Snowball and the gang from the manhole arrive at the river and see the direction they're going, promising to go after them to get revenge. In the animal building, Gidget and her friends go to the apartment of Pops, an old basset hound who knows everyone in town. Thinking he can help, the group goes to the retired dog and tells him what happened to Max. Although he refuses to help at first, Pops falls in love with Chloe and decides to collaborate just for her sake, kicking the other animals out of his apartment to go down to the sewer to look for Max. Near the center, Duke is starting to feel hungry when he sees a human eating a sandwich. Max then has the idea of making a pouty dog face and the man stuffs the whole snack in his mouth, leaving without giving the dogs a single crumb. Suddenly, the two begin to smell sausages and follow the scent until they arrive at a sausage factory. On the other side of the city, Pops takes the animals from the building to Times Square and through the main points of New York until they reach the sewer entrance. After going through the tunnels, the pets arrive in the filthy underworld where they find the gang from the manhole mourning the Viper's elimination, especially Snowball, who is planning revenge on Max. As soon as she hears his name, Gidget yells at the rabbit to stay away from her boyfriend, revealing to the abandoned animals that they know Max. When he hears about this, Snowball orders his gang to go after them, forcing the apartment animals to run for their lives. With great difficulty, the pets manage to reach the tunnel safely, but Norman ends up climbing out of the pipe right in front of the crocodile and ends up being captured. At the sausage factory, the two dogs jump into a trolley and are taken along the rails to the part where the meat is processed, eating a large quantity of sausages together. After the meal, the two feel closer and Duke tells him that his former owner used to live nearby, leaving Max surprised. Wanting to know more, the Jack Russell asks about Duke's old life, bringing the dog down as he remembers his master. Max then asks what happened and Duke tells him that his guardian adopted him when he was still a puppy and has treated him like his own son ever since. But everything changed the day Duke started chasing a butterfly and ended up going too far and not knowing how to get back. After a few days, the bearded collie was picked up by animal control and spent the next few months at the pound until he was adopted by Katie. When he hears the story, Max gets excited and says they can go back to Duke's house, saying that his former owner still misses him. Although Duke is down, Max manages to persuade him to go after his tutor, but just as they are about to leave, they are cornered by the truck workers who try to capture them. Running through the place, Duke skids and ends up hitting a pile of sausages, knocking over the boxes blocking the way. On the way out of the sewer, Pops and the other animals try to convince Gidget to give up on Max, but she refuses and motivates everyone to continue the search. On the other side of town, Duke arrives at his old house and is afraid of being rejected by the owner, forcing Max to encourage him. Thanks to his friend's help, Duke finally gathers his courage and walks out onto the balcony, where he finds a cat in a plant pot. Confused, Duke asks what he's doing there and says that Fred hated cats. When he hears the human's name, the kitten says that he is no longer alive and Duke goes into a state of denial, attacking the cat. Suddenly, the new family arrives in the yard and the bearded collie starts barking to expel the strangers from his territory. Frightened, the humans run back to the car and call the kennel, prompting Max to tell him that they'd better leave. Angrily, Duke asks why Max brought him there and accuses him of wanting to get rid of him, making Jack Russell turn to leave. As soon as he does, an employee of the pound comes along and grabs Max with the animal catcher, forcing Duke to throw himself on top of the humans to save him. Despite this, the dog is captured instead and Max can only hide while Duke is taken away. Refusing to abandon his friend, Jack Russell decides to rescue him and starts running after the truck. Next to the sausage factory, the pig begins to follow the scent of the dogs until Snowball sees a thrift store. In order to follow their trail unnoticed, the rabbit comes up with the idea of disguising themselves as humans. Now that they look like people, the three of them start walking around the city until they see Max running after the truck. Along with his gang, Snowball chases the dog that jumps into the back of the van. As soon as he does this, the truck stops at a traffic light and the tattooed pig hits the vehicle head-on, alerting the humans who come out to investigate. As the kennel staff approach, Snowball jumps on Max and rolls down the sidewalk without the humans seeing, saving them from being captured. On the other hand, the pig and the lizard are caught by animal control and put inside the vehicle along with Duke, forcing Max and Snowball to join forces to save their friends. After stealing a bus, Max hits the accelerator while the rabbit controls the steering wheel, crashing into everything until he reaches the van. When he gets close, Snowball puts on his seatbelt and asks Max to step on it, slamming into the back of the kennel van. As a result of the collision, the bus overturned and blocked the road, while the other vehicle fell off the bridge, trapped only by some scaffolding, as Snowball has fainted. Max picks up the rabbit with his mouth and starts to carry it to the van, but the manhole gang show up and corner him in the middle of the bridge, accusing him of wanting to devour their leader. As Snowball is unconscious, the animals don't believe Max's version and approach him to avenge the Viper, but Gidget arrives at the last second and knocks out the whole Culvert gang in a few seconds. Now that the Pomeranian Lulu has taken everyone out by force, Max rushes to save Duke and the others. Shortly afterwards, the pig and the others manage to break down the cage door and run out of the van, leaving safe and sound. On the other hand, Duke is still trapped and Max has to jump into the vehicle to save him, with great difficulty. The dog manages to climb into the truck and starts to walk to the driver's key, but the windshield begins to crack and breaks, forcing Max to walk along the steel part until he reaches the dashboard. While trying to get the key out of the socket, Jack Russell ends up turning on the windshield wiper, which pushes the scaffolding, causing the vehicle to fall into the middle of the river. Because of the current, Max is thrown into the back and ends up losing his key, which starts floating out of the car. Even so, Jack Russell doesn't give up on saving his friend and stays inside the van, going to the bottom of the river with Duke. Realizing that they won't be able to save themselves, Snowball jumps into the water and grabs the key, swimming to the vehicle to give it to Max. In this way, the dog manages to free Duke and the three of them swim to the surface. When they see that everyone has reached the shore safely, the other animals celebrate and decide to steal a taxi to rescue them, driving through the city until they arrive back at the apartment. On the spot, Max thanks Gidget for her help and says goodbye to his new friends from the manhole. As he doesn't like life as a domestic animal, Snowball says he feels sorry for them and that he could never live like that, but he changes his mind when a little girl called Molly comes home and decides to adopt him. When he receives affection for the first time, the rabbit melts and allows the girl to take him home. In the other apartments, the humans come home to find their animals exactly as they left them, having no idea what happened while they were away. After a tiring day at work, Katie comes home to find the place completely trashed, but unlike what Max was imagining, the woman doesn't mind the mess and is happy that he and Duke are now getting along.